The White House fired the head of the CDC, Susan Monares, for refusing to carry out the anti-vaccine agenda of RFK. Several other top officials resigning in protest, and Monares insisting she won't quit.
The CDC has problems. You know, we saw the misinformation coming out of COVID. The agency is in trouble, and we need to fix it. And we are fixing it, and it may be that some people should not be working there anymore.
He said he was going to let Kennedy go wild on health. Trump doesn't really care that much about health. And so he'd just as soon have Kennedy take it over.
I do think the CDC and other public health organizations didn't exactly cover themselves in glory during COVID, for instance. That's why we're having a crisis in confidence in these institutions right now.
Joining us now to analyze the coverage in Grand Rapids, Robbie Suave, senior editor at Reason Magazine. And in San Diego, Laura Fink, CEO at Rebel Communications. Robbie, Susan Monares was fired because she refused to dismiss others opposed to RFK's anti-vaccine agenda, which has become increasingly blatant.
Well, I would push back on whether it's an anti-vaccine agenda necessarily. RFK Jr. himself says that he has no problem with many vaccines. He's recommended the measles vaccine to help deal with outbreaks of measles that are occurring. But he, like millions of Americans, have questions about whether the COVID vaccine is appropriate in all cases or is necessary, not harmful necessarily, but necessary for otherwise healthy young people. And more broadly, the CDC's behavior during the pandemic is a top issue for conservatives, how bad it was. They tried to encourage censorship, I would argue, on social media of contrary information about the pandemic that we now widely accept. So, so cleaning up house is certainly in order.
Well, I would push back, and I'll do it in my question to Laura. First of all, HHS is not an independent agency, so the president has every right to fire her. But he has bought into Bobby's, I won't say anti-vax, I will say the argument that vaccines cause autism is completely dismissed as not true by the vast majority of scientists.
The vast majority, Howie, but not necessarily the 8. After firing 17 scientists that were on the Vaccine Advisory Committee, RFK Jr. then replaced them with 8 that are holding to his anti-vaccine beliefs. And I think the problem here is we're not speaking in science. We are speaking in allegations, and there aren't any receipts to back it up. So you've got a couple of problems here. One, and I will say this, President Trump's greatest accomplishment was Operation Warp Speed and the authorization of a vaccine that saved millions of lives. And now what we see is trying to gut all of those vaccines. We've cut 600 million in further research for mRNA vaccines. We've cut the data and distribution to track and respond to infectious disease outbreaks throughout the country. This is an anti-science agenda. And I'll tell you this, if I was able to replace all the judges, I could become Miss America. So we have to worry about this because down the line, we are going to see that kids are going to be unsafe. So that's why you saw the resignation of a CDC director appointed and approved of by Republicans in the Senate, and also the resignation of the chief medical officer, the health data head official, and the vaccine response official. That's a massive resignation, tsunami, and that does not bode well for Americans' health and safety.
Robbie, the media are largely siding with the CDC, and the CDC has a lot of self-inflicted problems, as you pointed out. But they're also pointing out that when Kennedy was dealing with the Senate on his nomination, he said he would not do some of the things that he is doing now.
Well, I think I have to wait to see what is actually going to happen. If it's just more information about vaccines from a variety of sources, I don't see why that's a problem. What we saw during COVID was a lack of dissent, people who disagreed with the guidance of the CDC, who were vindicated and silenced by that organization. They ruined testing from the beginning. They centralized COVID testing and they screwed it up. I mean, if I was an agency that in the country's moment of need, I screwed up my fundamental settled job, I would expect wholesale reform. And this is what the voters elected Donald Trump to do. They knew exactly what he was going to do with putting RFK Jr. in charge. This is an agenda that fits the voters. And I want COVID vaccines and other vaccines to be available to anyone who wants them, because they are good for to help elderly and at-risk people. But if it's just about whether kids are obligated or instructed to get them, we now know on the science that it makes very little difference.
Well, let me turn now to the other attempted firing of Lisa Cook, the first black woman to serve as a Federal Reserve governor. And here is what some of the pundits have to say.
Now, an aspiring authoritarian leader of the country is starting to really muck with the most essential wiring of the global financial system by trying to fire a Fed governor so he could take it over.
The Fed sets interest rates that affect mortgages. And here you have a Fed governor who's accused of mortgage fraud. I mean, you can't make it up.
So, Laura, she has filed suit against the president. She's refusing to leave. And a lot of people in the media say, look, the independence of the Federal Reserve is at stake.
The independence of the Federal Reserve is at stake. We saw that when it was authorized, they wanted these governors to be there for 14 years. And we see, again, the through line here is that Trump is firing people because I said so, without evidence. And it makes even more of an impact at the Federal Reserve. We see in Trump v. Wilcox that the Supreme Court warned him against this because they said don't mess with the Federal Reserve, essentially, which was unheard of when ruling on the firing of Department of Labor officials. The problem here is he's got allegations, but he hasn't put any proof in place. And he's really testing the limits of executive power. But he hasn't presented proof. He hasn't allowed her to defend herself. We don't even know what this is. I think because he couldn't fire Jerome Powell without the markets reacting, now he's gunning for Lisa Cook. And it's just an executive overreach once again, with no data, no information.
Just briefly, Robbie, she is denying the allegations of mortgage fraud. And she says in her lawsuit, Trump is just trying to vacate the seat so he can push his low interest rate agenda.
Well, and she's entitled to the presumption of innocence in terms of any criminal proceedings. But you better believe that if there was some evidence of Donald Trump, some mortgage fraud, that Democrats would be pursuing it. There can't be one rule for Trump and one rule for everyone else, which is why Adam Schiff, Letitia James, their potential where their houses were, that kind of thing. Those questions are going to be asked because Trump was treated that way. It has to be even across the board. She can't be, immune on that basis because the Federal Reserve should be. I'm not even sure if I like the idea of a
all right. After the break, I got to get a break here.
Board.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Compagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.